Okay.
Or probably more, depending on what you say. But we are live. Welcome, CK Nation, to the first episode of 2018 Cowbell Kingdom Podcast. We have a very special guest today who goes by the name of Cranjis McBasketball, also a co-host of Taking Charge with Cranjis McBasketball himself. How are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, man. You can call me Cranjis. You can call me Tim. Whatever you want.
Perfect,
I'm
Tim.
on hostile territory. Yeah, it's always fun to hear people say Cranjis, but Tim's probably better. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Coming off of a great win last night. I don't know about great. It was pretty ugly, but
it was pretty ugly. Yeah,
got the W nonetheless. After a 9-game losing streak, it's good to win a couple in a row.
I agree 100% with that. Before we get into that game, I really want to give some context to my audience. Most of it is Kings fans. Obviously, our YouTube channel, we cover the entire NBA. So for the people that are live right now, people are coming on the show. I see the viewers. Give people a context of, okay, so the first time I heard about you was Chris Axman. He said, listen to the show, listen to this portion of the show. And I started listening when you were talking about Kyle Kuzma. And I thought it was super awesome how transparent you were when you talked about that story and how you admitted that you were kind of wrong, but you went back and you did some research. Before we get into De'Aaron Fox and Lonzo Ball, can you talk about that just to show that, you obviously I respect your basketball knowledge, which is why I have you on the show, but I want you to give our audience some context of that story about Kyle Kuzma and your thoughts going into the draft and then after the draft.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I can just start off by saying that the type of coverage that I provide is probably something different from what Kings fans, Laker fans, most people are used to seeing. I'm a basketball guy. I'm not a journalist. I'm not an accredited media member, but I have basketball experience. I work for the Division I team in my school doing analytics and also some scheme stuff. I work with high school teams, lower level college teams, designing offenses. So I'm really, when I look at the game, it's a big chess match to me, and I'm really into the analytics, and I'm interested in the strategy, X's and O's, that kind of stuff. So I did some scouting last year before the draft, and I was able to watch every clip of film on Lonzo, on Fox, on all these different top guys. Kyle Kuzma wasn't one of the players that I had a chance to take a look at. And on draft night, the Lakers picked him, and I was just kind of putting out there some data on all these guys because I have access to stuff through Synergy that most people don't. So I was able to say, like, hey, this is what I think about Lonzo, watched his film. This is what I think about Josh Hart. This is what I think about Thomas Bryant. And then for Kyle Kuzma, when you pull up his statistical profile, when he was at Utah, when you're looking at the play types, so his like pick and roll, post up, transition, isolation, those different types of plays, the only things he was really good at were putbacks. He was really efficient, but he only had like one a game, so it wasn't like a huge difference maker. And he was good in transition, but everything else in the half court, he just didn't really seem to do a lot of it or be great at it. So I was like, how is this guy going to contribute? I know we wanted to be able to space the floor, so I looked at his shooting data, and he had poor mid-range shooting, three-point shooting, pull up, catch and shoot. Like everything was pretty bad for the guy. So I tweeted that out. I said, hey, this is what it looks like. Based on the data I have, it doesn't look like he's going to be a great shooter, but look at some film and I'll get back to you. But I guess most people read that as he's a bad basketball player. That is the Cranjis's point of view. So I've been hearing crap about it ever since because Kuzma's played really well. And I wanted to see, like, why did I miss on this guy? Because the data, I've used data a lot with scouting a lot of different players, and it's been really spot on for most guys because they're the same person. They're just playing on a new stage. So their tendencies are often the same. Their efficiencies are generally the same. A lot of that translates over. So with Kuzma, I wanted to see what I was missing. So I took a look at just some like overtime data, and I figured out, and I looked at film as well, and I figured out that he started off the season, he shot 4 for 20 from three. Started off really, really poorly over the first like 25% of the year. And then he made the switch to shooting his three-pointers from the NBA distance instead of like the normal college three. So he all of a sudden he started taking longer threes, which he said felt more comfortable for him. And he just started nailing them. And from there moving forward, he was like a 40% or 42% or something like that 3-point shooter. So the overall high level season long shooting for him, the numbers weren't good, but I learned a lesson through that you have to look at the trends and you have to connect what's happening on the court with the data. And it was a good lesson for me. That's the only guy that's really happened with where we've missed in that sort of way. But yeah, the podcast you listen to, and if anyone wants to take a look at it, we kind of reviewed some of my old, not hot takes, but like, this is what I think will happen and my different predictions and then how they panned out. And that was one of the lessons learned from that.
I asked you about Kuzma because I have been told that the Kings debated between Harry Giles at 20 and Kuzma. And obviously they ended up going with Harry, who hasn't played a game yet. And I have a good feeling that he probably won't play this year. He'll be a rookie next season. He has the entire year to, get healthy, although he's told me plenty of times that he feels great and he looks great. But obviously knees tend to I heard it takes about 2 years to fully recover. Is that accurate?
I do not have a medical background, but
yeah,
as someone seeing Larry Nance play and him coming off of a knee injury when the Lakers drafted him, it definitely did take some time for him to get back to full strength and have that spring back. So I would just be patient with Giles. Like a lot of these guys, you draft them knowing that they're going to be projects, and that's okay. And he had a ton of potential in high school. So he was a guy who I looked at the film on, and you could see it was there, but you could also see like this guy's playing injured and he still looks pretty good. He's still very raw. Like his post game was very raw, but yeah, just be patient with him. Maybe give it a year.
So let's move on to some De'Aaron Fox. I know you had some hot takes on that episode that I did listen to. Obviously, you have a lot of analytics to back up what you say. But I always say I tend to go more with the eyeball test. I know the numbers are against me. And trust me, that was one of my big concerns for De'Aaron Fox when he came into the league. And I did a lot of my research with synergy as well. And yeah, the shooting wasn't great, obviously, but just from a pure talent standpoint, I think his speed is godly and his passing is super underrated. And I think we saw a little bit of that last night. Obviously, he's not as good as Lonzo's, but he's also a lot more aggressive than Lonzo. Talk about the stats that you gave me, and then I'll reply to what you have to say.
Okay. Yeah. So if we're just going to look at how he shot so far, I think that's a big thing for him. Just with any player in the NBA, it's really difficult to be effective without being able to space the floor to help out your teammates, be able to like catch and shoot open jump shots, which he's done a good job with this year. He's shooting, I think, like 40% on open threes or something like that this year. So that's really encouraging because coming out of Kentucky, he had shooting numbers that, and I went back and I looked at tons and tons of guys. His numbers at Kentucky shooting were worse than anyone I'd ever seen that rose to being league average or better in the NBA. So like there have been guys who weren't great jump shooters in college and they figured it out, but no one who was as low of a level as he was. But when you look at his jump shot, like it doesn't look awful. So when I was looking at it, there were some specific things that like his sweep and sway, like how far he's jumping forward when he jumps. That's something you want to do, but he was rather inconsistent with it when he was at Kentucky. And at times he would do it maybe a little bit too much and you would see a lot of shots go off of the back rim. So I don't know. I haven't gotten a chance to take a look at it, but maybe he's cleaned that up. But just little things like that. Lonzo's had similar issues. A lot of the issues with his jump shot have been also lower body. He has that funky shot, but in reality, like the issues that are tangible that really make a difference that to shooting coaches and guys I've talked to are those lower body consistency things. So getting back to your question, looking at his shooting, he's in the 15th percentile in his efficiency on catch and shoot jumpers. So when I say percentile, I mean he's only scoring more efficiently than 15% of the league. So he's 229th of 247 players of the guys who've shot. Of the guys who've shot as many catch and shoot jumpers as him, and Lonzo's only 7 spots better at 222nd. So that's not great. But he's also not good at pull-ups. He's in the 26th percentile shooting pull-ups. He's 88th of 96 players who've shot as many as him, and Ball's 51st, which is actually ahead of Paul George, Kyle Lowry, Kemba Walker, Bradley Beal, Rodney Hood, only a spot below Klay Thompson. So Lonzo's been a little bit better there. When we're looking at the distances on his jump shots, he's in the 24th percentile shooting short range jumpers, 31st in mid range, and 32nd percentile on threes. So just all throughout the court, getting different kinds of shots, pulling up or catching and shooting, he just hasn't been good yet. And he obviously has time to improve. But we talked about, you said in your DMs when we were going back and forth that like you're seeing him shoot well in practice, and that's something that I've heard the same thing with Lonzo, and I see it with these college kids that I work with. Yeah. They can shoot lights out in practice, but if it doesn't translate, maybe it's a mental thing, maybe I don't know what it is, but until he's able to start doing it on the court consistently, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And like I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to like play around with like they call it like the gun, that like passing machine. You can get hundreds and hundreds of jump shots up in a short period of time. And even just for me, just that you shoot and the thing passes right back to you. And I'm not a basketball player, but after you do that for like a couple hours every single day, like you can turn just about anybody into a decent jump shooter. So seeing it in practice is a different thing from seeing it in the game. So that's what he's done so far.
So with that said, so with all these numbers that you just gave us, what did you see from De'Aaron Fox last night, specifically last night? And did you like what you saw, or were you like, yeah, this is who I thought he was or is?
So he did a better job. I mean, he hit 2 of 3 on open threes. So that was good because that's something he just didn't do at Kentucky. Like he was passing up on open jump shots, which you just cannot afford.
But he did in high school, though. Like he was a really good shooter in high school, and then he had that really bad year at Kentucky.
Did he? Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't get a chance to look at any high school film, but seeing what he did.
He had like 10 3-pointers in one game.
Okay. That's good to hear.
Yeah. So that was weird. And, you know, I've had these conversations with De'Aaron Fox, and he's like, I just don't know. I just had a really bad year shooting wise at Kentucky, and I don't know why. Yeah. And to me, when I do watch him shoot, I'm like, well, shoot, like his shot looks fluid, and it's not forced, obviously. Like and trust me, I'm the biggest Lonzo Ball fan, but like that jump shot gotta go. And I just feel like when I watched just last night, yeah, he had 10 assists and I think 10 rebounds, but just from an aggressive standpoint, he wasn't that. And I thought he made the obvious play, which was, you know, the passes that he did make. And then when you watch De'Aaron Fox in that first half, I thought he was much, much better. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought last night Fox was better than what his full season data would lead me to believe. I was impressed. He was aggressive. He had a couple nice defensive plays.
And he just came off of injury. So it's been 4 games, and he's been averaging 12 points, 5 assists, above 40% shooting. So he's been playing pretty well after he missed about 3 weeks of basketball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let me pull up the data right now. One thing that I do is I take that synergy data, and I'm able to calculate like per player how well they're shooting on these different play types compared to like what the expectation is. So what like league averages. And I took a look at what Fox was able to do last night, and so offensively he scored 15 points, but he would be expected to score like 17.1 points if he were a league average player based on the play types he had. But defensively, he didn't allow any points against him when he was the primary defender, and an average player would have given up like 5 points, 5.3 points. So he was a 3-point in the positive. So that's really good. Lonzo, I think, was like -3 or -4 for that game. But that's just one game. Like you have to look at the full season. You have to look at trends. One thing with Lonzo's shooting, and I've taken a look at like how is it going up? Is it going down? If we look at the 10-game rolling average, so we don't just look at one game at a time because that'll fluctuate a ton. If we look at you take the average for the first 10 games, and then you take the average of games 2 through 11 and 3 through 12, and you look at that trend line, Lonzo's shooting has gone consistently up over time. He started off really poorly. He's had blips here and there. Yesterday, obviously, the shooting wasn't there. Yesterday, for a guy like me who pre-draft was saying, De'Aaron Fox can't shoot, Lonzo Ball can shoot, yesterday was a nightmare for me if we're just going to look at a one-game sample, because it's not what I was predicting would happen, and it's not what's happened on the year as a whole. But if you take out the first 15 games, Lonzo shot 22% from 3, and then the 18 games since then, he shot 35%. So he's funky jump shot and all. including yesterday where he was like 2 for 11 from three or something like that. He's shooting league average from three as a rookie. And that's something I can be happy with. And as long as that trend line keeps going forward, his shot can look however it wants to look, but he's knocking him down. So
percentages matter, but do you take into account how the shot goes in, like if the shot's long or short? But I think that's what defines, to me at least, what a good shooter is, when the shot is either long or short. But Lonzo's can be long, short, to the side, to the left, to the right. You just don't know with the shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one thing that I've done for my team is you chart those good misses or bad misses. So good misses are a little short, a little long. A bad miss is anything to the side or anything like airballing or like off the backboard. And I haven't been doing that with Lonzo during the year. During summer league, I did it just because there wasn't a lot to look at, and he was doing well. But obviously, that doesn't really matter for right now. But yeah, you're right. There are times where I think a higher percentage of Lonzo's misses look really bad compared to most other players. As a whole, his percentages aren't awful, and he's trending in the right direction. But I will agree with you that there are times where, and it's really bad for him with the narratives going on. As a fan, if you don't watch Lonzo day after day like I do, and you just hear he's a bad shooter, and you hear on ESPN he's got this funky jump shot, and you watch and you see him airball a shot, it plays right into that. And it can lead people to believe things that aren't necessarily true. And I think that's happened a lot with Lonzo's play, because he's been really good this year. And he's also been one of the top defensive point guards by every defensive metric we have. But if you pick some random person off the street, they'll probably tell you Lonzo can't shoot, Lonzo can't defend. De'Aaron Fox scored 38 points against him in the Sweet 16, which didn't actually happen. Only 11 of those points were attributed to Lonzo's defense. You can make synergy for that stat. And I've had several people look at the game too as well to confirm. But it's so easy to spin narratives, especially when you have these like ESPN talk shows going all the time, and get people to believe the wrong things about players.
Absolutely, and that's why you're on the show, because I do respect your knowledge and you have the analytics to back up everything that you do say. But I do want to read this to you. It was a story by my guy Aaron Brewski here in Sacramento, and it's something that, like, I didn't look at these stats, but I see it every day, and I think it's part of why. Like I told you yesterday, you guys have Caldwell Pope, who is super frustrating. In my eyes, we have Zebo, who is a one-dimensional player, and he is what DeMarcus was last year, minus the feel to pass and make the right reads. He's just, give me the ball and he goes, right? He has tunnel vision. So that really affects other guys who play with him. And I've always noticed that whenever DeMarcus was out there, everybody would just stand still and just watch him. And that was frustrating for DeMarcus, because he, in fact, was a really good passer and is a good passer and wanted to pass. But with Zebo, it's not like that. And that's part of my frustration, because when you have a guy like Fox who creates so many mismatches with his speed and wants to play in transition, you really have to wait till Zebo catches up to you. And when he does catch up to you, then you just throw him the ball. And then it's like you just feed the beast, which I think doesn't help De'Aaron Fox, right? It doesn't help Willie Cauley-Stein, Scalabrine. So this stat was given by Aaron Bruce. He said, take Randolph off the floor and Fox's numbers shoot up a lot. So the first one was Fox is outright awful with Randolph on the floor, with the partly 38.6 effective field goal percentage, a 21.1% usage rate, and the team scores just 0.78 points per possession. And if you take Randolph off, his numbers go up to 46.6 effective field goal percentage, 25.2%, and then 0.94 points per possession. And then that's what I was trying to tell you in our DMs, that a lot of it is the players that are around him. I feel like he has a better I feel like Lonzo has a better nucleus in LA. Is that accurate?
He has players around him like Kuzma, who you don't really need to do anything for, and you pass on the ball, he's open. Even if he's guarded, he's shooting like 50% on guarded threes, which is ridiculous. But he's got guys like that where he can make a play and give it to them, and they score. One similarity between Sacramento and Los Angeles is their schemes, and the Lakers have been getting better, but the schemes aren't fantastic. And when you have situations like you get the ball in the post and you just watch, like that's not what the good teams do. When the Warriors get the ball in the post, or if the Rockets will use the post, they don't like to score from there, but they'll get the ball in the post, or the Celtics, you get that ball in there and you're running flare screens or you're running split cuts and you're getting players in positions to be open. That's not something the Lakers have done. That's not something, and I haven't watched a ton of Kings film. They're not one of the teams I've scouted. I have a spreadsheet publicly available where I've scouted, I think, 12 or 13 of the teams in the league, and I've given their schemes like ratings on their pick and roll offense, when they post the ball up, what happens after that, their set plays, their out of bounds plays, all that stuff. But what I was seeing from Sacramento is kind of like what you're describing. You get the ball in the post, and that's kind of it. And even if you have great passers, like if Boogie's down there and nobody's moving, you're not inclined to just pass it out and give up and try to reset. You want to get the ball in the post, run some action, and get some attacks on the defense that, one, give him real options to pass to. Two, it takes away the help defense because they have to defend their own man or they're leaving their guy wide open. And that allows Boogie to be able to be more effective without extra guys kind of digging down and getting a hand in there. So things like that aren't really happening with the Kings and are getting better with the Lakers, but it's been a slow process. So stuff like that would really help Lonzo. It would definitely help Fox. Lonzo at UCLA, their offense was very much set plays, using him off the ball, having him run off of screens, catch and shoot. When he was running the pick and roll, their scheme was specifically designed to create passing options. And it's something, I have a 30-minute video explaining their pick and roll offense because it's very unique. It's not something we see a lot. The Cavs run it sometimes. The Rockets do a little bit of it, but it's not something that we see in college basketball. So if you want to go on YouTube, search like Cranjis Lonzo, it'll pop up. And they took a player like that and they're throwing Lonzo into a completely different situation, telling him, hey, you have to score out of the pick and roll and nothing else is going to happen around you. So just make it happen. And Lonzo was a playmaker at UCLA, but he was a playmaker put in situations to make plays, not told, hey, go do it. So you have to have these talented players, and taking advantage of De'Aaron Fox's speed is something that the Kings should definitely be doing, but you have to put them in situations and use set plays to like milk every ounce of advantage you can out of these players in every possession.
So what you're saying is that the Lakers don't have enough playmakers, so Lonzo has the luxury to do what he did at UCLA, right?
For me, it's more about the scheme and the plays being called. You don't need, like, I've worked with high school teams. You do not need elite passers to run set plays. I hear it a lot. Oh, well, Lonzo can't operate off ball because he has no one to pass to him. That's not true. Like I've seen firsthand, like you can put people in situations where the reads are very simple and they know what the play should be, but you have to, it starts at the coaching. The coaching has to put in those types of plays. One other thing I wanted to add, you said that Fox without Zach Randolph in the game, they were scoring about 0.94 points per possession. That would be the 27th best offense in the NBA.
Jesus, it's still bad.
0.7. I think that's 0.76. That is like that's like very like worse than 30th by a lot. But 0.94 is still down there.
Yeah, and then to me, that just proves my point that he doesn't have a strong nucleus like what Lonzo has. You know, like he doesn't have Brook Lopez, Randall. But anyways, what are you hearing as far as trade rumors with Randall? Is that a possibility that the Lakers do in fact trade him? Because I think he'd be a great fit in Sacramento.
Yeah, and I think he'd be a great fit in LA if they were to commit to him. Yeah, the Lakers are in an interesting situation. They, unlike any other team, they started the year by saying, hey, we want to sign 2 max free agents, which essentially let Jordan Clarkson and Julius Randle know that they weren't going to be on the team long term. You could make it work if they really finagled some stuff, but in all likelihood, both of those players are going to be gone in order for LA to sign the guys they want to sign, or try to sign the guys they want to sign. So we've got a situation where we've got these players who, and I believe Jordan Clarkson recently like asked to be traded, or it didn't outright say that, but I read something about him like wanting to be moved, which makes sense because the team isn't committing to you. When you know they don't care about your future, how much personal attention are you going to get every day in practice to be a better player? You're out there playing for yourself, not your team. And those are all things that Luke Walton has to deal with. These players have to deal with. It's a really tough situation. Like if Cowboy Kingdom told you, hey, you're gone in a month, but keep doing what you're doing, it messes with your head.
Yeah.
So Randall's been dealing with that situation. There's a good chance that he gets traded. Clarkson could get traded. They're two players that have value, and this year, from last year, this year, they've grown a lot. They're two guys who last year other teams or people on Twitter from other teams said that, oh yeah, like they're interesting. I think Jordan Clarkson would be a good player, but they weren't great last year, and they've improved a ton this year. Julius Randle's been one of the best defensive centers in the game.
He's been amazing, yeah.
Yeah, he's been like top 10 defensively at his position. Jordan Clarkson went from that similar black hole tunnel vision to suddenly being able to make plays and making behind the back passes and all of these different things. So, and Clarkson's a great ISO scorer. He was 11th in the league last year in ISO efficiency. He's in like the 95th percentile scoring off of screen. So he's a scorer. Randall's a really great defensive player who's still developing offensively. And those are players who have value and if Sacramento can get guys like that, one or both of them, that would be a great long-term kind of, they're not really veterans yet, but they sort of are. They've been in the league a couple years, still developing, but those players have value. So if you could get a guy like Randall, go for it.
Yeah, so Randall's been really good as a small ball five. Now, if he is a free agent and teams are looking at him, are they looking at him as a five or as a power forward? Like when they do pay him that much money? Because I'm assuming he'll get paid anywhere from 12 to 18 mil a year, right?
Yeah, see, that's the tricky thing. He's probably going to get something somewhere in that range. But if you're going to pay him that, you want to be starting him.
Okay.
So
at the power forward position or at center?
I would say at center. And I'm very much like my personal preference is to be able to have shooters on the floor. And I forget who said it, but somebody once said, like, if you can't shoot threes, you're a center. And Julius Randle can't shoot threes. He's shown this year that he can be good at center. The concern would be, can he do it defensively? And he's been able to do it defensively. His ISO defensive numbers have been fine against big guys. He's actually been one of the best big men at defending guards off of switches. I don't have the ISO data in front of me, but earlier I ran something for Forum Blue and Gold, just talking about how like nobody could score against this guy. Like John Wall, Kyle Lowry, like down the list, nobody was scoring against Julius Randle. So he's very versatile defensively. But yeah, I'd start him at the 5 just because of his shooting ability, and I think he still definitely has value.
So you watched Scal play last night. Did you see any positives, anything different than what you saw at Kentucky? Because he's another guy who had an awful year at Kentucky, and then he showed a lot of signs, a lot of progress towards the end of last year, and a lot of it was because he was playing against, bench players, since a lot of teams were defined as far as positioning in the playoffs. And then this year he kind of took a step back. Zebo being there, it doesn't help. What have you seen from Scal this season?
Yeah, so he's not a guy that, I haven't done a lot of watching Kings basketball, so I can't give you a great answer.
What did you see
last night? Just last night he looked fine. Yeah. At Kentucky, he was one of those guys that didn't seem to like be with it, and you're expecting so much from him based on like how highly he was recruited, and then he came in and he and I don't like to talk about this stuff like this because like I'm very much an X's and O's, like tangible things. I don't talk like, oh, he was scared or didn't man up, stuff like that. But like he looked overwhelmed, and he didn't look like that last night. He looked much better than that. You can probably tell me better than I can about how he's played over the year, but.
Do you see a Randall Scal pairing a good pairing in today's NBA?
Not with Scal's shooting, not with his 10th percentile jump shooting. That's a tough sell for me.
Okay,
you want to be able to have 4 shooters on the court in today's NBA game. So if you've got Scal out there at the 4, you want to have a 5 who can space the floor, and if you've got Randall out there, you want to have a 4 with him that can do the same thing. So it's not ideal. In my eyes, it's not ideal. It might be able to work. I don't know how Scal's been defensively, but Randall gives you some options. Okay. Yeah.
He's been pretty bad.
Okay. So that's not ideal. And Randall's not really a rim protector either. He's been better with, like, he can hold his own against big guys and not get bullied. But his real strength has been sticking with guards and containing small guys off of switches, which is something the Lakers like to do a lot. So I don't know how Scal's rim, like, help like rim defense has been, like shot blocking, stuff like that. But if not, I wouldn't say it's a good pairing.
So who impressed you the most last night from the Kings?
I mean, Fox played better than I was expecting him to. So that was I was impressed by that. To be completely honest, like what Vince Carter did was like seeing him still out there dunking. That was not what I was expecting. But there was one guy who kind of stood alone. And I'm gonna need some help with pronunciation, but is it Bogdanovich?
Bogdanovich, correct.
Yeah, I think he kind of stood out is the one guy who I was like, wait, who is that? I know who this guy is. And
he's our best player.
He's played really well. He played really well last night. He's shooting the ball. He's like, I think that's a solid piece you want to develop. He's only 25. But yeah, that's who I would say. The way he shot the ball, the way he was running around on the court, that would be the guy. Him and Vince Carter, like mostly jokingly, but still, if he's like 40 years old doing what he's doing, that's
no, seriously, yeah. And I talked to Vince and I watch him practice, and honestly, at 40 years old or 41, whatever he is more athletic than a lot of guys in the league still, which is crazy to say.
Crazy. He can dunk better than Lonzo. Lonzo's like 10 years younger than him.
I know, my man. I have a lot of comments on our section, but I don't think there are any questions that you can answer. ESPN. Okay. I think that's going to do it. Well, one last question, which is, I guess, the question of the podcast. If you had to choose right now, who would you choose long-term? De'Aaron Fox or Lonzo Ball, and why?
So I would take Lonzo. And if we're so I would base it off of like what we've seen so far from these guys. Lonzo has been his defensive real plus minus. He's been the fourth best point guard of 95. De'Aaron Fox has been 93rd of 95.
So you think Lonzo's a better defender than De'Aaron Fox?
Yes, I think so. And
from a stats standpoint or from like an eyeball standpoint?
From a real life, the stats align with what I'm seeing on the film. Don't listen to big athleticism telling you that all that matters is speed and quickness. I think Lonzo Ball is a good defender, and all of the stats say he is. If we're looking at his defensive, like on off, like how much the team is better or worse with him on or off the court, defensively, also adjusted for luck. And I can get into that if you'd like me to, but adjusted for luck, he is a plus 7.5, or I guess a minus 7.5, which is better.
What's that mean?
Defensively. So when he's on the court, the Lakers are 7.5 points better defensively.
Okay.
Which is the best on LA. Whereas De'Aaron Fox, when he's on the court, they're 3.4 points worse defensively, which is second worst. When we're looking at defensive rebounding,
does that take into account other players that are around him too, or no?
So that is
because I think that matters.
What that is no, that one is not adjusted for the lineups you're playing with.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the real plus minus one is, and that's the one that has Lonzo 4th and Fox 93rd. And if we're looking at defensive rebounding, which is another thing Lonzo's been really great at, he's 9th of 105 guards at his adjusted defensive rebounding percentage, which doesn't count the ones where someone like defers the ball to him or he defers the ball to someone else. Like he's up there, he's grabbing rebounds, 9th best of any guard, whereas Fox is 69th. When we're looking at my defensive points over expectation, which is I was talking about earlier, like how many points you're scoring. So this is the defensive version. This is how many points he's giving up compared to what an average player would be expected to give up given the same defensive possessions. Ball is 56th of 439 players, and Fox is 403rd of 439 players. So with all four of those different things, all of them show Lonzo as being a good defender, and Fox is having a lot of room for growth. And I'm not saying, like, I'm not here to start fights or say De'Aaron Fox won't be good. Like, I think he's going to be a good basketball player. I think he's kind of where Brandon Ingram was last year, where he had the talent. He needs to build physically, and there are technique things that he needs to clean up. And once he does that, he'll be a better spot-up shooting defender because he's been ball watching at times. He's been over-helping at times, what I saw in the film, and that's resulting in his guys shooting really well, just catching and shooting, or driving past him as he's trying to close out, but he was out of position because he was over-helping. Just little things like that where if they pay attention to it, they can fix it, and he can be better, and his data will be better, and the data is what's happening. The data doesn't tell you why, but the data tells you what's happening. So he can improve those things. I think as he gets older, more mature physically, that'll improve as well. But right now, if we're just looking at the two guys, Lonzo, as a rookie, is a great defender. and Fox hasn't been yet, but he can
So
still prove.
I guess my last question is with everything going on with you guys and LeVar Ball being a huge distraction, is it worth, and would you have drafted if he could redraft? I know it's hypothetical, but is it worth having Lonzo with all this,
Yeah,
commotion?
it definitely is. And
Okay.
again, my perspective might be different as someone who's more basketball focused. And like, you won't find me listening to a million basketball podcasts and watching ESPN talk radio because those guys will talk up how much of a distraction this is or how awful
Yeah.
it is. But in reality, like Lonzo's been a good basketball player, like not for a rookie, but he's been a good basketball player, period. He's been one of the best rebounding guards, period. Not for rookie, just period. He's been one of the best passing guards, period. He's been one of the best defensive guards, period. When we're looking at his offensive impact, he's already been good. He's I can't find the numbers, but like despite his shooting, he still had a better offensive real plus minus than De'Aaron Fox or Dennis Smith Jr. or Frank Ntilikina, period, even with the bad shooting. So he's showing the promise already. The narrative and the reality for Lonzo is so very different. And as someone who, like for me, what I'm consuming is film. And I'm watching the games and I'm going back and watching things on film. And you notice so much that you don't notice watching live. And
Correct.
that's what I'm seeing with Lonzo. And with LeVar, like he can say all he wants. Most of it isn't like he's not out here saying malicious things that are
I agree.
cause a ton of issues. When you go back and you look at the film of the interview with Jeff Goodman of him talking about Lonzo losing the locker room, it's very different from what the headlines would lead you to believe. He was saying, hey, if I were the coach and we were getting blown out, I'd say, hey, I'm probably losing the locker room and I don't blame you and it's a pride thing. And the way he's been misquoted and his quotes have been twisted is something unlike anything I've ever seen. So I would just say to anyone, Laker fan, Kings fan, anybody, when you see those things, like go back and look at the film, watch the interview, and 99% of the time, it's not what they're making it out to be. So in reality, I think the Lakers realize that, and that's why they're not really commenting on it too much. Like it's not a real issue. Lonzo's doing fine. LeVar said in the interview, like, hey, this isn't Lonzo telling me the team doesn't believe in Luke. So it's just him speculating and saying, this is how I would assume they'd feel as if I were the coach and we were losing so badly. So there's no issue with Lonzo. And as long as there's no issue with Lonzo, I don't think the media circus has like really any impact. And if we were going to redraft, I'd still take Lonzo second because he's been good already, even with the horrendous shooting start that he had. That's suddenly risen, and not suddenly, but it's steadily risen to being league average shooting.
So with what we know now with Mitchell, Dennis Smith, Fox, and Lonzo, if you had to choose between these four guards and project one of them to be a multiple-time All-Star, which guard would it be?
That's tough. Donovan Mitchell's really good, man. And the thing is, it's really tough for rookies because like Mitchell and Dennis Smith Jr. and Ntilikina and Fox, like all these guys, like they'll put up highlights and some of them have better kind of general thinking about them. Like we think Donovan's been great. Donovan Mitchell has been great, but his efficiency hasn't been there. It's been more volume and he's been okay, but like Lonzo's already kind of there, even with the poor shooting. So I think what he brings in terms of his passing and the rebounding and the defense, if the shooting continues to improve the way it has been and he shoots like he did at UCLA, like that's a guy that's going to be an all-star a couple times. And I think Donovan Mitchell can be an all-star a couple times. And I think De'Aaron Fox, if he gets a jump shot and is able to clean up some of these things defensively, which he definitely could do, he could be an all-star. If I had to pick one guy, I'm going to go with my boy Lonzo, but it's a good class. Like we have a good class of guards this time. And Mitchell was more of a surprise. He wasn't really in that conversation among the top guys, but I'm excited. It's cool as a basketball fan. It's cool to see a new regime coming in and seeing these young stars out here competing and pushing LeBron and pushing Steph Curry. So it's been a lot of fun.
So I lied. One last question. I know you cover college basketball. I'm super high on Luka Doncic and Trae Young. If you had to choose between these two, as far as going number one, who would you go with number one?
I don't think Trae Young's going to go number one. Okay. I'll say that right now. I think Doncic could, Ayton could, Bagley has a chance to.
Yeah.
I think it'll be between one of those three guys.
Me too.
I think Trae Young will probably go like 4th or 5th. I don't know. It all depends who gets which picks.
Chooses, yeah.
Yeah. So that'll play a big role, but I think the top 8 or 10 guys is pretty set. And the top 8 or 10 guys are guys that I'm like really excited about.
Are you projecting Trae Young to be a star in the NBA, or is it just like this hype in college?
See, I haven't done the video work that I did last year as far as like watching everything with these guys. I've taken a little bit of a look. I've looked more at Young than the other guys just because there's a ton of hype around him. And I will say that a lot of it is hype. He's taken long threes. He's taken like crazy shots, but just his impact and his efficiency hasn't been. It doesn't match the hype. He's still been good, but I don't think we should carry it away with ourselves. I don't know.
Okay,
it's interesting. I think he can. I mean, it's really early to tell. I'd have to do a better dive, and I'm cautious to try to put out an opinion because as someone who's doing this constantly, you can have it thrown back in your face. And as someone who's using analytics, I don't want to represent analytics Twitter and then not be right because I didn't look at it thoroughly.
That's fair.
So I'd love to come back another
time. Yeah, exactly. So when we play you guys, what is it, a month from now?
A month from now, I could tell you all you want to know about Trae Young. And I have all the data for you. Whenever, just let me know ahead of time. I'll put the work in and I'll be able to give you an opinion. But I spend so much time just looking at Lakers stuff.
Yeah.
I love college basketball. Watch a ton. Go Michigan State. But yeah.
Okay. So Miles Bridges, is he going to be a good player in the NBA, or where do you project him?
I think so. He'll be not shooting guard, small forward. He made the change from 4 to 3 this year, and it's worked out pretty well. Especially with their team specifically. Now they have like 3 legit shot blockers in their starting lineup. But he's a guy who brings some defensive, like he's a really good help defender. He's a rim protector at the small forward position, which is something you don't see a lot. Offensively, he's done a really good job this year. He's shot well. He's isolated okay. He's a very versatile guy. So you can play him like a stretch forward. You can play him running off of screens, catching and shooting. You can have him just spot up and attack closeouts. He can do a lot of different things. He's been a little bit disappointing, if I have to be honest with you, as far as, because I watch every Michigan State game. He hasn't shown what he can be yet. Like, we see flashes of it, but on a day-to-day basis, he hasn't been, like, I don't think he's been the 5th best college basketball player. He definitely has the potential to be. But if you're drafting him based on that potential, because he's been good, but he hasn't been fantastic. If he can put it together and continue to get better, like this guy's going to be a monster. Just athletically, I've never seen anybody dunk the ball like he does. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah, definitely. They have him and Jaren Jackson Jr., Michigan State, 2 guys who might go in the top 10. So keep an eye out on them. Keep an eye out on Oklahoma, Duke, Virginia, and Purdue are 2 of the top 4 teams. Probably don't have the big name prospects, but those are 2 teams I like watching. Yeah, college basketball is fun. I'm one of those guys that like college and the pros.
There it is, guys. So where can Kings fans bombard your Twitter right after the show, man?
Yeah, so you can find me on the Twitter at T1M_NBA. So it's Tim_NBA, but the I is a 1. Or just type in Cranjis McBasketball. I'll be the knucklehead with the animated face and the Lakers logo in the background. And I'm happy to talk Lakers, Kings. Like I'm just a fan of basketball, man. So if you guys want to hit me up, ladies and gentlemen, I'd be happy to talk scheme, talk analytics, talk trash, whatever they want. Yeah, find me there. You can find my work at Forum Blue and Gold. I write for them. My podcast is Taking Charge with Cranjis McBasketball. So those are the main places.
All right, guys. I'm going to continue this second half of the podcast with you guys answering questions. Cranjis can go ahead and end the call. I'll text you out to the show, bro. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
Appreciate you, my brother.
Adios.
All right, guys. Now I'm going to answer all the questions. What do you guys got for me? Let me know if you guys enjoyed this special guest, first show of 2018. I know I did. Again, I know a lot of you guys don't like analytics, but they're very, very important when it comes to breaking down a particular player, as you guys can see. everything he said, he backs it up. And, he was wrong about Kuzma in some sense. He went back, he did some research, and now we know why he's having so much success at the NBA level. And this is the fact the Kings are contemplating between Harry Giles and Kyle Kuzma. Obviously, went with Harry Giles. We won't know if the gamble was worth it until next season, in my opinion, because I don't think Harry will play this season. I think the team will take a cautious approach to him playing. I think there's no need for him to play, honestly, because as it is, Scal doesn't get any burn. So let's not compile all these young bigs and waste a year when he can be developing, getting healthier, etc. So let me know what you guys think, man. Do you think Boogie will stay in NOLA? I do not, but I truly believe he will be a Los Angeles Laker next season, along with Paul George. That's my prediction, and I'm going to stick to it. I truly believe that in my heart. You're going to have Lonzo Ball, Ingram, Kuzma, Boogie, and Paul George next year, which in my eyes is a playoff team. Kara got hits. I feel we shouldn't tank, but we shouldn't chase the playoffs as well since we don't own our 2019 first. Well, those are two separate things. The Kings, technically, if you want to call it tanking, they are. They're not a very good team. The Kings will be in the top 5 in 2018 for sure. I'm not going to predict if they'll be in the top 5 in 2019 because we don't know what the team will look like next season. So I hope that answers your question. But the Kings are a team that Dave Yeager, he wants the NBA, referees, everyone to take notice that they will play hard every night. They won't win many games, but they will play hard, which really matters. And I think that's really important. Like if they lose competitive games and they're competitive and their young guns are developing, that's really all that matters, in my opinion. I want to know what you guys think. Join the conversation. Tag all your friends. Tell them about the Cowbell Kingdom Nation. Also, make sure to follow our NBA page, which is Basketball Zone Official on Instagram. We keep you guys updated on everything. And it is what it is, bro. That's what we do, and we do it every single day. Definitely, we should think. I hope we compete. I seriously hope so, man. Thanks for answering. Danny, are the Kings going to trade Hill? I think they will, but I think the difficult part of trading Hill is finding a team that can absorb his $19 million, bring back another expiring veteran contract, maybe a pick. I'm not sure how high that certain team who will trade for Hill is on George Hill. If they really, really need him, they might include a late first-round pick. It's difficult, man. I keep telling you guys, it's not as easy as saying, let's get rid of Hill and bring on draft picks. It doesn't work like that. There's not a team out there that can absorb $19 million. It just doesn't happen. No one's going to pay over the luxury tax for George Hill. I'm just keeping it real, man. So you need to find a team that will give you an expiring veteran in return. So at the end of the day, it kind of puts you in the same predicament in terms of still having a veteran and knowing that Dave will play as veterans. So I would keep that as is. But if you do trade George Hill, I hope it's the right partner, and I hope you get the right pieces in return. It just can't be trade Hill. Like, you need to get the right pieces in return. What to the current Kings do you think has a chance to be the greatest part of the playoff team? I think the star of the team is De'Aaron Fox, and you have a nice compliment and bogey and Bogdan Bogdanovic. I think Bogdan is such a good player, man. He's definitely the best player right now, no question about it. In my mind, he's the best player, highest basketball IQ on the team, the most solid player, the most versatile player. Definitely holds his own against anyone on any given night. You guys heard it from Cranjis, Laker guy, Laker podcast. Works for a Division I school. He does this for a living, so he knows what he's talking about, and he definitely impressed him the most last night. So I see those two being critical components to the future of the Sacramento Kings. Love how smart Bogey is. I agree 100%, sadly. Who do you want the Kings to draft? So if you guys know, if you guys can go ahead and watch all the videos that I've been posting about all the college prospects for 2018. I've been reacting, giving commentary on certain games, on specific games. So the guys that I've done have been DeAndre Ayton, Luka Doncic, Trey Young, Marvin Bagley. So I'll keep you guys on top of all the top prospects. That way we are familiar with them. And when we are close to the April, May, June portion of this year, I'll start doing the video breakdowns. As of right now, I'm doing more commentary, more reaction to the video since I don't have much time to watch the actual games. So I'm reacting to them. I want you guys to join the conversation, and trust me, we'll have about 4, 5, 6 videos on each of these guys, on Luka, on DeAndre Ayton. So I'm super high on Luka Doncic. I believe he's the clear-cut #1 pick. And in my opinion, I would draft him in the heartbeat. I think he's going to be a superstar in the NBA. I really do. I think at 18 years old, the fact that he's dominating Europe and how he plays and his feel for the game is really impressive. I highly recommend you guys to go watch some of his highlights, or if you can, watch some of his games. I know it's tough because they play at a different time slot since he does play for Real Madrid at the ACB. He also plays in the EuroLeague, and they play a lot. He doesn't play many minutes because they play in 2 different leagues, but definitely the kid is a baller, and he will be top 3 for sure. As far as clear-cut #1, a lot of people like the American players, DeAndre Ayton, who I think is a physical specimen, the Marvin Bagleys of the world, but I would go Luka Doncic #1. Who is your next guest on your podcast? I think I'm going to go with Cole Ziegler. He's from the Stepien. Great dude, knows his stuff, all college basketball prospects. When I asked him about what he thought about Willie at Kentucky and pretty much how he's progressed or digressed at the NBA level, this dude is legit. It's Cole. His last name starts with a Z. It's super long, so I don't know how to pronounce it, but I texted him today, and he said he's down for it. Hopefully, I bring you guys more of these live podcasts. You guys can also listen to the audio version on Spotify, on iTunes, on TuneIn Radio. We're everywhere, guys. So please leave us a review on iTunes or on Google Play, wherever you guys can. That really helps us for sponsorships. Talking about sponsorships, go and follow Valley Tire Center. They're giving out Kings tickets all year long. We do these giveaways all the time. Make sure to follow them. They're Kings fans. They're season ticket holders. Support your local businesses. If you need tires, they are the #1 spot in all of Northern California. Tell them that Cowbell Kingdom sent you guys. You can say Leo or E-Man or anyone, guys. Thank you guys so much. Leo, can we have Fox on your podcast? I've had De'Aaron Fox on the podcast, guys. You guys can listen to that podcast on iTunes, on Spotify, on TuneIn Radio, wherever you guys get your podcasts, your music. It will be right there. Just scroll down, and De'Aaron Fox was a guest on my show. I'll have more player interviews for sure, but it's difficult to have players live. If that makes any sense, because of their schedules and because of the access that we do have to them. But if I do have a player, it'll probably be after practice. That's when the Kings allow me to interview these guys one-on-one. So yeah, that's that. I don't think we need Doncic personally. We have bigger holes. Doncic is a small forward, guys. He is 6'8". He'll probably grow to be 6'10" when it's all said and done. And even if he doesn't, 6'8" is a great size. The guy can do it all. He can play the 1, 2, and 3. A lot like Bogdan, right? Bogey can play 1, 2, sometimes 3. Luka is Bogey on steroids. I'll say it right now. He is amazing. Like, if he's not better, he's as good as Bogey at 18 years old. So you can only imagine what he's going to be at 24, 25. Trust me when I tell you guys that this kid is legit. A European, not just European, a basketball prodigy. So check this out. So Luka Doncic, if you don't know his background story, Luka Doncic was a little towel boy for his dad, who played on the Slovenian national team. Goran Dragic, who Luka just won the EuroLeague championship with this past summer, he was 21 years old. So he got to play with Goran Dragic, the guy who was 21, who's now, I don't know, 31, 32 years old. Like, that's how young this guy is. Put that in perspective. They won the EuroLeague championship. They beat Bogdan's team, Serbia, in the championship. And this guy is just insane. He's the best player in Europe at 18 years old. That's insane. He's playing against grown men. He's not playing against kids in college. He's playing against grown men. Put that in perspective, all right? This guy, that's why to me, he's a can't miss prospect. He's going to be good on any team. And I just hope that the Kings draft him, because a combination of De'Aaron Fox, Bogey, and Luka, that's going to be deadly for the next decade. So going into the draft, I think what Claudius done is at his best when he's motivated. Look at his history: 27-10 first game. Then the season, his first game off the bench, he went off well. Appreciate you, Tanver. Cavill is the best. What I'm saying is the talent beneath motivation. What happened to Matt? Miss him on the podcast. We also missed Matt George on the podcast, but he got promoted at 11:40, so he had no more time to be on this show. Hopefully, we'll have him on as a guest. It's just a matter of me texting him. I mean, we see each other all the time. We hang out at the games all the time, so that's no biggie. We can bring him back on. Dang, dude, such a baller. I thought Luka was 6'6" or smaller. I feel dumb now. It's all good, brother. That's my job, to educate you guys. This kid is 6'8" right now at 18. Like I said, I think he will get taller. If he doesn't, he's fine he's fine at 6'8". So to me, I see him as a James Harden type player because he's so what's that word I'm looking for? He's definitely deceptive. Like, people underrate his speed. A lot like Bogdan. Like, Bogey's not the most athletic, but he gets where he wants to because he's so under control. And we see it every single night. And Luka is bigger than Bogey, and he's stronger than Bogey. And he has, like, to me, Bogey is super nice. Like, me and him talk all the time. And I text him and stuff, and I'm like, dude, keep your head up. You know, you guys are losing. You're not used to losing. And he's like, yeah, it's tough, but, like, Luka is a bully. Like, Luka will get in your face. He's a competitive dude. And I'm not saying Bogey isn't. Bogey is super competitive. But you know what I mean? Like, when you have that mean streak about you, Luka is that. Like, this dude is mean and definitely gives him an edge when he plays basketball. Will Fox be the next John Wall? I hope so. That'd be really good for the Kings for sure. Doncic is a beast, amazing shooter, playmaker. Just hope he's letting know. That's what I'm saying. So people question his athleticism. Are you questioning Bogey's athleticism? Because he's more athletic than Bogey. And Bogey, like I said, obviously every athlete in the NBA is athletic because they're all super athletes, but then some are more than others. But even then, he might not jump the highest or he might not be the fastest, but Bogey gets where he wants because he's under control, because he has this. He has a basketball IQ. People don't understand. I'd rather have someone who can pass, have the feel, have that type of feel, who has that basketball IQ, and the guy who jumps 40 inches, or a guy who's super fast. Why? Because that will get you to places. That will make you a better player when you do have some athleticism coupled with straight amazing IQ. I mean, again, I know you guys don't like. I know you guys don't like Lonzo Ball, but we can't lie. He's a great rebounder. He's a great passer. And as Jerry Reynolds said last night, all he needs to do is hit 40% of his shots, and he's going to be a star in this league. That's how good and that's how much of a feel he has. Right now, Bogey is better than Lonzo, but Lonzo, projects to be better long-term because he is 20 years old. But, I mean, I'm excited, man. I'm a basketball fan. I'm super impressed with all the guards in this class. Dennis Smith, Donovan Mitchell. Should have been a king. I told you guys they should have drafted him at 10, but that's another story for another podcast. Let me answer the final questions before we end this. If Doncic is off the board, do you go Bagley at fit next to Will? No, I'm going to go Luka I'm going to go DeAndre Ayton for sure. That's my number 2 guy. I think Ayton he's going to be a star in the NBA because of his physical acumen. And to me, when you have a guy who can move like a guard and have that type of like physique and stuff, like that's crazy to me. But the only thing about Fox's legs are toothpicks, which scares the hell out of me. Once he puts more weight, I expect him to drive and absorb. Yeah, so look, with De'Aaron Fox, again, he just needs to be more consistent with his jump shot, have more confidence. And once he does put on the weight, he's gonna draw fouls like James Harden, and then start hitting that I don't know, it's like lefty jump shots. I shoot like this though. But once that happens, man, he's gonna be scary. He's gonna be a nightmare for every single team in the NBA. Trust me, guys. Any plans on updating your background? Which background? Which background? Let me know. What do you think about LeBron James? LeBron James. LeBron James is the best player on earth, hands down. And I don't want to hear that KD is better. You let me know when KD wins a chip without a 73-win Warriors team. Let me know, guys. Will Malachi stay on this team in a few years? It's tough to say, man. Like I have relationships with a lot of the players, and I love Mally. I love his manager. Great people. I've had lunch with them, and I don't know. I think because of his injuries, and I always say this, it's all situational. It just went, it was just bad luck in terms of what happened. He was playing well with the veterans last year, and he pulled his hammy. And he pulled his hammy again in summer league, so that didn't help him. Dave has been very outspoken about that, but now I think we're beginning to see his muscle, all the muscle that he did gain during the offseason. It's helping him become a good defender in this league. And I've been very, 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 very happy for him because he's beginning to play a little bit more, and he's gaining more confidence from the coach. He doesn't have to be out there as a liability. He can play really good defense and be that type of 3-and-D guy that so many teams want. And if he can consistently hit a shot, which I think he has the nicest jump shot on the team, then the Kings have a player in him for sure. Malachi, what else? Look up a lot. I think Luka Malachi as a defender, and how is Giles doing, and when will he be back on the court against? Okay, so the update on Harry Giles is what we were told was that we'll know this month, guaranteed. There's not a specific day, but what I'm hearing is that the team is leaning towards not bringing him back for the year. So if that happens, he will be a rookie next year and will compete for Rookie of the Year. So I think I'm about 95% sure they'll elect that way, but you never know because Harry has told me plenty of time that he feels great. His knees feel great, but the team is taking that precautious, standpoint, and I don't blame them. I think they're doing the right thing. And again, I don't think they should rush him, especially if he won't get much playing time anyway. With Zebo there, with Scal there, who still needs to develop. I think they really want to see what they have in Willie Cauley-Stein, what they have in Scal, what they have in Yorgos, and play those guys. And then, hopefully he has a year like Ben Simmons where he took the year off and he learned a lot watching the game, getting stronger. And it seems like Harry is that type of guy, and hopefully he continues to put the work in. He'll be fine, guys. So let's just leave it at that. Kings versus Lakers 5 years from now. Who are you guys picking to be better? It's tough. I think the Lakers only because they have a chance to be good next year. They have a lot of cap space, and when you have Magic Johnson as your head guy, even though I think to Tim's point, I think he's been really disappointing in my eyes because he could have came out and said, we stand behind Luke Walton. He's our guy, and he hasn't done that yet, which is extremely worrisome. I think he's lacking from a leadership standpoint, and hopefully he does come out and he stands behind this coach. And if he doesn't, and if he really does want this, then, good for him. But I think the fact that they can get Boogie Cousins this offseason and Paul George, that will bode well for the projection of who will be better in 5 years. I think they'll be better next year. So what happened to your King's mask? I don't know where that mask is at, guys. I'm not sure where that mask is at. No pun intended. Yeah, that's funny. That's actually pretty good. Malik dropped the ball. What happened to Buddy against the Lakers? He was on a hot streak, and then I don't know. I think Katie quoted me and was like, I don't know what she said, but I was disappointed. Buddy literally brought them back within striking distance, in 60 seconds. The dude had 8 points in 60 seconds. That was crazy to watch, and just didn't make any sense to me why they put Garrett back in. I understood why they put Bogey. Obviously, he's their best player, but the fact that they put Garrett instead of Buddy, I get it. Maybe defensively he didn't like what he was doing in the first half, but dude, you don't sit down the guy who literally brought you back. So we'll see, guys. I might not have any. I'm thinking about any final thoughts that I do have. Again, make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. Leave us a review on iTunes. That would really mean the world to us. You guys can share this podcast with all your friends. Let them know, guys. Thank you guys so much. I'll answer this last question. Do you think the Lakers will trade Lonzo because of LeVar Loudmouth? I don't think so. And after listening to Tim, who was on this show live, a lot of the things LeVar says are twisted and in some regard. So, and I don't think you should be worried about what a father of a player says. Like, if you're strong in leadership, none of that really matters. Just look at the Patriots. Tom Brady's dad talks all the time, and no one says nothing because they're winning. And next year, hate to say it, guys, and I'm not a Laker fan, and I hate the Lakers, but I have to admit, objectively speaking, they're going to be good because they will sign Boogie and they will sign Paul George. I'm pretty sure they won't sign LeBron, but I see both of those all-stars going to the Lakers next year with what they have with Lonzo, Kuzma, and Ingram. That's going to be a nice nucleus for a long time. But what I do want, though, is hopefully they trade Randall to the Kings, and then it'll all be good. I'm hoping that happens, right? Yeah, we love your stream, Kings, forever. Appreciate you, my man. But that's gonna do it, guys. Again, make sure to share this on all the Facebook pages, on Facebook, on Instagram, anywhere you guys can. Text it to all your friends. I really appreciate it, guys. If you haven't gotten your merch yet, make sure to get your merch, guys. We got the Fox is greater than Ball. We got the Sacramento skyline. Like, we got a lot of shirts that are Sacramento oriented. And we want you guys to buy these, to wear them proud, because we are Sacramento proud. And hopefully we have another show this week. I'm hoping that we do, because we didn't give you guys a show in the first week of 2018. But I think this show has been great. Lots of knowledge. Take it as you wish. I thought Tim was great, and he made a lot of great points. And to me, if he can back up what you say, that's respectable. I may not agree with that, because I do think Fox will be a better player long term. And I do think, I think both will be really good. But if I had to choose between one or the other, I'd go with De'Aaron Fox. So that's going to do it, guys. On behalf of the entire CK team, have a great rest of your night. And thank you guys for being on the show. Make sure to listen to the audio version as well. Thank you guys so much.